You're about to listen to a podcast full of wonder, excitement, and discovery. It's time for an adventure through Odyssey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the return from a hiatus and a few little side episodes of the Adventures Through Odyssey podcast, Odyssey Revisited. I'm Will here with John, and we're hoping to get back on track. The only problem is we all have given up our club subscriptions because we all jumped to Disney Plus. However,
We'll renew.
I mean, they're the same price. So, well, we know it's so tempting to go to Disney Plus, but we know it's even more tempting to pirate Odyssey episodes. Although we cannot condone the sin of piracy, if you're gonna sin with our sponsor, NordVPN.
No. Stop with these Stop with the fake sponsors.
I thought that was a pretty good one, actually.
We came back. We were gonna try to do like things differently, and then you gotta go and do fake sponsors.
Well, if hiatus returns have taught us anything, it's that just go for the stuff the fans like immediately instead of dragging them along for a couple of years.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yes.
But yes, we are back. It's been a while. I don't know. We've recorded episodes. I don't know if we'll ever posted them.
I think I posted a majority of them. One of them got lost to the ether, but
I feel like a lot have gotten lost in the ether. But regardless, I feel like, Gabe may be working on a new logo. I don't know if that's still happening. But I feel like now that we're back, we're kind of like refreshing some stuff,
Hopefully.
Like, we're still gonna do, like, album episodes, and, like, new episodes and reacting to, like, the new episode titles and everything. We'll get our club subscriptions back. I think, has there ever been anything that new recently? Like,
new album dropping right now.
Oh. Then, yeah, we probably will get those soon.
Yeah, so.
But then I think we wanted to do, like, maybe like specific episodes on specific episodes. Like we did the Castle and Cauldrons episode, and that did pretty well.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're looking to like that. In addition,
it.
Some what?
I think some blogs reposted it.
And then maybe like theme episodes. This one's like probably gonna be a little shorter of an episode, just because it's midnight. It's the two of us, though. I don't know what Leah and Gabe are doing. We sent a text to Leah and Gabe, and they didn't respond. Well, they responded, then they didn't respond. I think they're just like tired, which is totally understandable. I'm very tired now too.
Yes. So
this is more of a theme kind of episode on like the hiatus and Odyssey hiatuses and how we felt about it.
Yeah, or just some discussion of that time period. I will say, if you have any discussion topics you'd like us to cover, please email them to me. You probably won't. We're fine with that.
Yeah. What's the email address?
Oh, an adventurethroughodyssey@gmail.com. And we would like to thank the fans who emailed us during the hiatus to make sure we weren't dead.
Wait, is that as in A-N?
A-N.
Adventure
through Odyssey@gmail.com. The email is in the description.
Sounds good.
Where was I? Oh, and also, if you have copies of any of the Odyssey video games, still send them to us. We'll play them on Twitch.
Well, don't send them. One, we have most of them.
We don't have 3D CD-ROM with the bad audio editing.
Okay, I can find us 3D CD-ROM. We can buy it for like $10 off eBay, where if we ever get around to Twitch streaming, because don't tell them send us the games, especially because we can't guarantee we ever will Twitch stream.
Or if it will work. How much trouble would we get in for like talking over a Let's Play of it?
I feel like we tried that once like 10 years ago, me and you, and it just isn't interesting.
Okay, yeah. I mean, okay, yeah, you got a point. Okay, moving on to...
We can make a video, maybe, but just talking over gameplay is kind of like... Unless it's, like, something like you're talking over, like, Smash Brothers gameplay, or, like, something, like, very technical, it's not going to be super engaging.
That is true. Alrighty. We're going to move on to the meat of this episode. So, John pitched this, and in light of some things that have happened, I thought it was a good idea. We are going to discuss Adventures in Odyssey hiatus. Specifically, the second very long one. That we're kind of now just coming out of, not just coming out, but like 10 years out from it. Because this will have been 10 years since the show soft rebooted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of interesting to look back on. So, I have the wiki here, if I can find it. So, on May 17th, 2008, the Imagination Station Revisited Part 2 aired.
Which I would say is a very good episode, though.
Yes, I will say it's a very weird episode to end your run on, but it's a good episode.
Well, okay, to me, Album 50, a lot of them are not like all the titles are callbacks, but it does like wrap up a lot of stories. I still am always kind of upset how Connie's book ended up.
I mean, they tied it into the whole thing, but I do get what you mean.
And I mean, I guess it was the album before, but even then, it's like she writes this book and then like it's just gone, and it's kind of like it's a little rough. Here's my question. Here's what I don't get. Why does Odyssey lose the best small town in America again?
I do not remember. Oh, because they go visit the other town and they feel like the town needs the recognition more?
Is that it?
It's something like that. Like
It's not that. It's not. I don't think it's that.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay. Well, regardless, I feel like because I think, and like they brought back, I feel like a lot of characters who were gone for a while.
Right.
I feel like that's a pretty good recognition because in some respects, like the original Imagination Station episode is almost one of the first really great Odyssey episodes.
Yeah, I'd give you that.
And what's impressive about this, and it does wrap up her arc, although, and she had a good arc. I do feel like, I have a thing where I feel like Grady needed a better end to his arc.
Yes, that is one thing we'll get to when we circle around to everything.
Right, but I think it's a very good episode. It wraps up her thing. And what's impressive is, given the fact that like they already did a 2-part episode about the death of Jesus, they added many things that they kind of like just didn't focus on or wasn't the main element of.
Oh yeah, they did a very good job literally making it a revisited.
Yeah, because it's interesting is it's like the whole crucifixion thing. They actually go somewhat more in depth because they like say certain things a little more, but that's a much more like the brief like she's opening the doors. Which the door thing I don't did that they had like one Imagination Station episode where they like talked about that, right? In the new one.
Yeah, right. This was like the first episode where that Imagination Station was working. And in later post-hiatus episodes, they have it, but they always seem to use the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still need to figure out how that works.
And I think it's a very good cutoff. I do think their biggest fault, though beforehand, and I can't put this fully on like the new run. Audiences probably know our issues with some of the following years, although I think album 51's okay.
Yeah, revisiting it's fine.
All things considered, I think album 51's okay. Is how they just end it with them being like, oh, the Imagination Station must be the most amazing invention you ever created. And he's like, well... And, like, basically, like, the implication is, oh, no, there is something better. And then you're like, what? And then you're like, what is it? And then, like, that's the cliffhanger. Which, like, yeah, and I feel like even if it had been, like, let's say 6-month hiatus, I feel like that would have even still been pretty rough.
Well, and also, because in later episodes they use the Inspiration Station again, but it's just like the Imagination Station, but more inspiring, I guess?
Yeah. It's kind of... in my opinion, that's like one of the biggest issues is that like they had this setup, and it's like it's not like I'm on the edge of my seat, like like what could it be? But it is like they kind of say, oh, this is something that's like as good and not better than the Imagination Station, and I feel like it had like there's the episode when they come back, and we'll get to that, but then I just feel like afterwards it was a little like.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't remember a specific episode with it. I remember they used it in, like, one other episode. But I can't... Yeah. Like, they use it, but it's never, like... Like, there's, like, a lot of Imagination Station episodes that are very much, like, forgettable.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember a lot of them. I feel like... I don't know if there was ever, like, besides, like, the first episode it premiered in, like, another episode where, like, that's, like, a great use of the Inspiration Station.
Agreed.
And I don't put that necessarily on album 51. I put that more on album 50, because I don't know if they had that planned, or they were like, what are we gonna do? And they were like, inspiration.
I will agree. It did not necessarily felt like slapdash, but like they didn't know where it was going. And I will also say, to compare this to the first hiatus, so do you know what the last episode before that hiatus is?
What?
It is the one where Lucy and the newspaper gang go around chronicling a day in the life of Wit.
Huh.
Now, there is that Christmas Around the World episode, but that never got released. It just kind of aired as a Christmas special.
Yeah. Also, if you noticed a significant improvement in audio quality, we just fixed that.
Yes.
My headphones were up too loud.
Right. So the episode is called That's a Wrap, and that ends with, Wit saying, I think it'll be Lucy asking Wit, what do you think tomorrow will be like? He says a typical day in Odyssey. Anything can happen. That's what I like about this place, end episode. So what I like about that is, had that been the final episode, that would have been a really great note to end on.
Yeah, and I think they knew it probably wasn't going to be the final episode.
Right.
But it is almost like a good end to that run, because in a lot of respects, that is like the end of the original run almost.
Yes, and there's another thing about it we'll get back to when we talk about coming back from the hiatus. But so just in a hypothetical situation, if Focus on the Family had aired that episode of Odyssey, and they decided, you know what, we're not going to make any more, that would be a really good conclusion. Had this thing happened during the album 50 hiatus, that would have just been, that's not a great conclusion. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. I feel like, especially like with the end, I feel like, honestly, the Imagination Station Revisited Parts 1 and 2 would have been if they hadn't added that thing at the end.
I agree. Maybe just like a more wraparound about how great the town is or something.
Yeah, but even then, like, if it ends with, like, someone becoming a Christian and Jesus just, like, being, like, to the end of the age or whatever, like, not that's, I'm not demoralizing with Jesus. I'm saying I don't remember if that was the end of that episode or the original one, but, like, to the end of the,
No, I get what you mean. Yeah, and that's just, like, a weird ending for an episode in general, so.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
No, so, I think that would have been an okay ending if they ended Odyssey on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So, I do remember when this episode aired that on the official podcast they had said they're taking a little break.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is, they had said, like, I think we're taking a year off. This turned into, like, 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I do know it's partly because they had to find a new Wit.
Well, that's the thing. I think Wit... here's the thing, though. Wit, the original... Paul Herlinger, Wit number 2, stepped down before he died. So this wasn't an Al Smith situation where it's like, oh, crap, we need somebody.
Right, but I do think he stepped down during the hiatus.
Right, but I honestly don't think that really impacted... Because I'm guessing
Right. I don't think it took them that long to find that wit. Because they definitely weren't as concerned about voice matching.
True. And I also think he knew he was done after album 50 and the Truth Chronicles, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, some things came up, and we'll get back to those in a minute. So in 2018, we also get the Truth Chronicles.
Which, like, to me is very weird. Because I don't get why if they hadn't had that thing at the end of album 50, they literally could have just made Truth Chronicles album 51.
Well, because it was part of this whole thing called the Truth Project they were doing. So the idea was they were supposed to tie into the Truth Project for kids. Like, if your church is doing the Truth Project, here's something for the kids to do.
Right, but you still could have done it. You could have just had it be called The Truth Chronicle, album 51, The Truth Chronicles. Because here's the thing. There's a lot of really good episodes that introduce you to characters.
It is true.
Kidsborough is a great introduction to all the characters they ended up not using.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
But, like, because it's everyone but the Parkers. If you look at it, it's everyone but the Parkers and Jay. And it's such a good episode, and you get a really good idea about most of them. I mean, it's not everyone. Like, I think Barrett's in it. But Barrett's, like, girlfriend, I don't know if she was in it or not. But I actually think she was. And that's just so, like, kind of sad. Because I feel like if they had that been album 51, people would have maybe hooked onto them a little more.
Actually, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I'm looking at the wiki page right now, to see if this album was exclusive to be the focus on the family store for about a year.
Because I remember, like, Nelson has a huge role, I feel like, in the Truth Chronicles. Nelson has a big role, like, in the other episodes, because he has the whole evolution fossil record one.
Oh, you're right.
And that's a good episode.
Yeah,
the Truth Chronicles is really, really good. And that's what's, like, frustrating, because I think, like, I thought that's what we were getting, because it was, like, kind of, like, the Truth Chronicles, especially for being a tie-in, is a super good Adventures in Odyssey album.
You're definitely right, and we're definitely going to get to the Truth Chronicles, don't worry. But yeah, after you saying that, I do kind of remember that. So, and I do vaguely wonder if these characters were meant to be here, but the hiatus got extended so much they had some issues. Or, contractual stuff, or kids getting older.
I wonder... Well, because, like, Jay's an adult.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't Jay some kind of, like, indie director or, like, something, TV thing or something like that?
Yes, he is.
It's something, like, weird like that. Not weird, but it's something specific like that. So I don't think even being an adult, because, like, Nelson still sometimes shows up, I feel like. Or am I wrong?
No, I think he does, yeah.
I honestly feel like when they brought back the hiatus, they were very much like, we need, like, the family.
Absolutely.
And I feel like they were like, well, we need... Because they had, like, the Barkleys, and then they had the Washingtons.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they were like, we need someone like that, so they chose the Parkers. And the Parkers, aren't that bad. I think now my big problem is, well, I don't know. It's just that, like, I think even if you look back at the Barkleys, I don't think they focus on the Barkleys as exclusively as they do the Parkers. It's less now, but, like, for a time. And then they did the detective agency, and I think that was so popular.
Right. And I do kind of wonder if part of that was because, remember, Kidsborough aired on the radio, like, right after the hiatus ended, or started, and they were just kind of included in the Truth Chronicles. I do kind of wonder if, like, Kidsborough was meant to be a little spin-off to set up these new kids. So when we got back, it was, hey, here's these new characters. Because what I was going to say is, the other thing about the first hiatus, it lasted 9 months because the next episode aired in September. Do you remember what the first episode back is?
No.
It's the Jack and Joanne wedding episode.
But I do remember that, which isn't like it's not really introducing you to anyone new, but it is kind of like shaking up the status quo.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. It's got a framing device of Jason's been gone for a while, Connie's catching him up on everything.
Yeah.
Now, that episode could have included like, and a couple of these kids moved away, some kids moved into high school. They don't do that, that's fine, you can assume things. Second hiatus, we come back, what appears to be almost immediately after the last episode ended.
Yeah, I never got, like...
It's been like a week of that episode ending.
Right, so it's hard to tell if it was like, literally like a day or two later or like a month or two later.
Oh, yeah. Even then.
Yeah, even then, it's kind of like there is a bit of a drop-off. Or like there's not like any big seemingly change in the status quo. At the same time, I do like a lot of the... And I guess, like... I think it would have benefited them to have just had the Kidsborough be in Album 51, whatever that had been. Because I think, like, the Kidsborough's... I know, like, people are like, well, Kidsborough's like a book series or something. But I think Kidsborough is a very good introduction to all those kids. And I feel like, because, like, was it Jack? Is that the name? What's the name of the, like, kind of sporty main guy in Kidsborough? Because he had he had the mascot episode. Like, in Album 51, they tried to introduce these kids in Album 51 and Album 52. But I just feel like they didn't catch on. But I feel like Kidsborough, they would have, people would have been like, oh, yeah. Like, he's really good in that.
Right. And again, I don't know. I feel like, again, this is going back to the official podcast. They always talked about Kidsborough like it was supposed to be this big thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the books are still going, aren't they?
Yeah. I wish that to me is one of the things where I'm like, mid-hiatus, I'm like, need more Odyssey. We get the Truth Chronicles. It's great. And I'm like, Kidsborough, like, they're going to do so much with this.
Right. Well, because I do remember the Truth Chronicles. I don't remember when we got it, but it came out in August 2008. Again, right after the hiatus.
Yeah.
So, I am checking. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, here are the books. So they have not released a book since 2011.
Okay, so they're obviously not making more. It's been 9 years.
Well, so here's the thing. A Kidsborough book came out in 2000 called The Great Kidsborough Takeover. They have 4 in 2008. Then 1 in 2011 called The Fight for Kidsborough. So, what is that one even about? They don't even say. It's just kind of the generic description. So, I guess it's just a thing that always tried to get started, but...
It seems so weird to me that they never tried to do another episode.
I agree. Oh, I totally agree with that. Well, sorry, I lost my train of thought again. I'll say that a lot on this show. But yeah, so Kidsborough, I actually listened to that earlier this year because this year is 2020. Last year because Leah kept talking about it. And yeah, it's a really solid episode. It just and I think they're kind of trying to reuse elements of like the Square One Club and the Jones and Parker Detective Agency. But wouldn't it be a lot better if they would like set up an office in Kidsborough or something like that?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, here's the thing. In real life, that would definitely be a thing where like after like a few months, kids would be like, "Wait a minute." Like kids would get tired of it in real life. And I get like the complications where they're like, "Well, why are you going to do this? Don't you have to like go run Kidsborough or something?"
True.
But even if it was just like a summer thing, like that's kind of
in a weird way, it feels like it's got this summer vacation adventure vibe to it.
Yeah.
So,
because doesn't it take place over the summer?
I'm pretty sure it does.
like, and they could have just had like 1 or 2 episodes. I just feel like it was an opportunity for a lot of the kids to interact very well together, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm checking
Truth Chronicles. I just wish it was album 51, because I think that would have been. And I don't get why they couldn't have. They could have just said we're taking, because you really could have done this. Because how far Truth Chronicles was probably like what, like 6 months after the hiatus.
So the last episode aired May 17th of album 50. The Truth Chronicles came out in August of 2008.
I feel like you could have put it in September. Because is it the new Wit or is it the old Wit?
It's the old Wit.
Okay. I feel like you.
Wit's last thing in a minute.
Okay.
Ooh.
I don't know. It's just, to me, that's what I was so excited about. I was like, I like these new kids. And, like, I actually, like, when album 51 was airing, I thought it was good. Like, I liked it. I think the problem is, though, then album 50 I think I, like, kind of, like, after the Green Ring Conspiracy, I was a little bit like, okay.
That does sort of feel like the moment where it turned into, okay, might not be great. And I will admit, I was at least probably older at the time, but a lot of those old Odyssey episodes still hold up pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's a discussion for another time, because we're just discussing the hiatus.
Actually, I think where I fell off, I mean, I still listen to all of them, but where I wasn't like, oh, new album, like I wasn't like checking the website daily and everything, was I think like the album with like the whole AIDS episode.
You mean The Ties That Bind?
Yeah. That's like 54, right?
No, that's 58.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's the last 12-episode album.
Oh, then it was probably before that. But I just remember vaguely that, but...
Well, because I actually remember we had set out the last couple of albums, then they dropped that episode for free on the podcast. Now, I think that's how we found out Connie's mom died.
Okay, we should move on. Because I want to talk about, like... Yeah, let's move on.
Talk about what? We'll figure it out. So, the next thing that dropped in 2008 was BTV Live, the 20th anniversary live recording. So this was recorded in August of 2018. They do not have a release date for the album on the wiki, but I do seem to recall it coming out the same year.
It probably did. Because they were probably still under the impression this was only going to be like a 9-month-year hiatus.
Right, so
we'll drop the Truth Chronicles and BTV Live.
Right. And BTV Live, I believe, is the last appearance of Paul Herlinger as Wit in an actual episode as Mr. Whittaker.
Okay.
And, we had the DVD of this. I enjoyed it. Looking back on it, there's one very weird thing about it.
What?
The way the DVD is structured, and I'm only saying this now because I feel like we'll never get another chance to talk about it, is there's a video portion where it's like, I believe it's like a 45-minute show. About 20 minutes of it are video, and the rest of it is still images. Like, looking back on it, that's just so confusing to me. Like, did you not have a camera person tape the whole thing?
What if their camera died? Or, like, they lost the footage? They were like, crap, we were gonna sell this. Pictures.
Well, because that's the thing. It happens sporadically. It's not like there's one point where it's just all pictures. I mean, maybe they thought kids would not enjoy just watching people speak into microphones, but there's like visual stuff happening. Like,
yeah.
Maybe they don't want to ruin this for the kids, but like at one point there's a joke where Wooten is telling someone to run faster than he yells at the Foley guy. But that part I remember it vividly. That part is a still image. Like, why don't we show the video of that?
I don't know.
That being said, it's a good anniversary special. We get to bring back a lot of the characters, and it's a last hurrah for a good chunk of the old ones.
Yeah.
So, the best part of it is George Barkley is just randomly there as
That's
part of
pretty
the main cast.
That's pretty funny.
So, I think it's on the club if you haven't listened to it in a while.
I'll probably give it a listen.
Yeah. They might have the video too, so.
So then we should talk about the waiting. I remember waiting for album 51, being like, Will, when is it coming? And being told, not yet. And I was like, ah. That's when I still listen to the official Adventures in Odyssey podcast.
Yes, and I actually remember their vagueness about this. They're like, episodes are coming.
Yeah. Which I thought was a pretty good podcast, but probably better than this one.
I don't know about that. But then we jump to 2009, where we get Passages Darian's Rise.
Maybe I don't know if I listened to this fully.
I've definitely not listened to it.
I mean, I listened to parts of it.
Right. This again, because this is how they introduced the new wit on the podcast. They played a clip from Passages. They mentioned there was going to be a new wit first, so not everyone wasn't shocked. But
yeah.
Wait, maybe they announced the new wit and like a month or two later they played this clip?
I think they did that, which it's a weird clip to play.
Oh, yeah.
Because the whole thing is like... The whole thing of... It's like Wit reading this story about these children who go to another world, right?
Yes.
It was like trying to do Narnia vibes or something, right?
I believe so. I'm double checking.
If you like, tell us if Passages is good.
Right, yeah. So Jack Allen brings Wit a manuscript he found in a real estate sale.
Mm-hmm. Or was it a manuscript, or was it supposed to be like a journal or something?
Yeah. Oh, the children get sold into slavery. I think it's like 50-50. Like it's like that first random Passages episode they have in like album 34, where it's, did this really happen, or is it all in the kids' heads?
Yeah, it was always a little like like it was like a manuscript, or like it was something weird. It was always like I listened to that, like, is this supposed to be like someone's real adventure? Because yeah, there is that weird other thing in that other album.
Right. And well, because here's the other interesting thing. I just looked up the plot of the last episode, and the last little paragraph is Whit finishes reading the manuscript and meets with Jack the next day. They decide to investigate the story further. ... So I don't know if like part of it was they encouraged you to go read the next book because Whit and Jack investigated further, because I think the whole point is this is based off one of the books.
Well, yeah, I think like Kidsborough was supposed to start a book series.
Passages, you.
Yeah. Well, because Kidsborough, the Kidsborough books.
Oh, right.
And then I think Passages, they're like, well, this will encourage people to read the other Passages books. And I think the biggest flaw with that is that my guess is a lot of people missed Passages. Like, how many episodes was Passages?
9.
They should have done something where it was like the first half or the first third of one of the books.
Yeah.
And encouraged people to read it, and had it just be in like album 51 or 52. The same with like Kidsborough, where I feel like I think you could have gotten kids to read them, or even listen to like a mini spin-off audio series.
I would agree with that.
But I think the problem is no one core Odyssey fans probably knew Passages involved Odyssey at all.
Right. Well, and because I'm looking through the descriptions of the rest of the books, there is this underlying thread of Whit and Jack trying to find more manuscripts.
Yeah. Which is so weird to think of, that they're like, we gotta find more manuscripts. Where were they? At this estate sale?
Right, because apparently, like, you just walk through the woods in Odyssey and there you are, which I don't know if like their thought is, are they gonna pump out more radio shows, or did they just push you to go read the books?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so now then it gets into things about like kids disappearing in Odyssey. Man, they wrote a lot of these.
I know they sound cool, but like it's just one of those things where the Morris manuscripts, Volume 1.
I think that's just a bunch of them together.
Oh, I see. They're just a bunch of like random stories.
Yeah. So I won't lie, I'd be down if they did more of these just to they did the whole like the whole book series audio, but they're probably not going to do that unless they do another hiatus.
Mm.
So I'm sorry, please continue your whole thing about waiting.
Oh, because like passages I couldn't get into it. I just remember like, as a kid being agonized and re-listening to Novacom, like all that stuff. I do remember though the day it happened. Like it was supposed to air. Because, Odyssey used to be on the radio. And I think it had been off the radio so long that whatever station aired it just pulled it.
Yes.
And I remember us going to listen to it, and it just wasn't there because they stopped airing it, and I was crushed because for some reason it was not on the website.
Right. Well, I think there's a reason for that. We'll get back to that in a moment.
Or like it was delayed on the website or something like that. It was intriguing.
Well, this was in 2010, so like we're still kind of in the early days of how streaming works.
Yeah.
So so it came back March 6, 2010, so just under 2 years.
Yeah.
And again, I do remember following this through the podcast, and they finally had to do in like November, or no, it was like January, because they were specifically talking about it coming back that year. January of 2010, a big Q&A episode about what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to delay the episode, delay the startup, because I think it was supposed to start fall of 2009, and that's why Passages happened.
Yeah.
Because they wanted it to be so you could go get the album as the episodes were airing. So if you heard an episode you really liked, you go pick it up. That was their thing anyway. So in a weird way, Odyssey was a few steps ahead of binge culture.
Well, it's not the worst.
Arrested Development did not drop on Netflix till May of 2011 or 2012.
Well, okay. I'm sure their argument was that people could go and like, yeah, people could get the whole, people could get the new episode, like that was a really good episode, I want to hear it again, so they go out and buy the album. However, right. I also think it's probably the fact that like Odyssey fans, if they knew the album was out, would just go buy it right away. That's
true. I also wonder, your whole thing about it not airing on the radio, I wonder if so many radio stations dropped it, they're like, we better just have the album out.
I wonder that too, because I feel like when you look at the other hiatuses, because there were actually a few I saw when I like Googled stuff, they all like, it was all though kind of like December, like they ended like probably around Christmas.
Right, like the first big one we discussed.
Yeah, and then they came back in September. So to me, like, summer programming I think is always weird.
True.
Like, they can fill it that with a lot of stuff, and then there was basically kind of like one season, like one half of it was basically like they had one big half of the year to fill. Like, they missed probably one regular programming block.
Yeah, and they could just air Odyssey reruns if they wanted to.
Yeah, Odyssey reruns or Focus on the Family could literally be like, here's like a shorter thing we're doing.
Right.
I think when when you're gone for like 3 or 4 years, I'm sure there's a point where like they're like, well, these other people are willing to pay us to put stuff up there.
Absolutely.
So I think that was to some degree an issue.
I definitely think that was part of it. I'm guessing they didn't really air passages. Also, because I do remember pre-hiatus, the new episodes being put on the website was always a little spotty. Like, there was usually a couple weeks before new episodes would show up after they initially aired.
Yeah, where it used to be like, oh, it was on the radio, now it's on the website.
Unless you, like, paid for some subscription service from Focus on the Family. Which, again, few steps ahead on that.
So I remember being very crushed. I don't think I cried. I might have cried because I was like, I want the new Odyssey.
Yes. And then, I believe super late that night, it finally dropped on the website.
I think so. I think I listened to it the next day, honestly.
Right. My guess is they didn't post it till, like, the 8th, just so any radio stations that were airing it kind of got first dibs on it.
Yeah. Sorry. Yawning. I do. So, do we want to talk about the episode they came back with?
Inspiration Station, yes.
Yeah.
Although we've discussed it already, it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I don't think, to me, it's not a bad episode. I think the issue comes with album 50 setting it up that, like, this has to be, like, the return episode.
Yeah, and actually, even in the podcast, the interview, I think it was Paul McCusker, and he's like, the first episode we come back with is a little weird, and it's weird because I wrote it, and looking back, that's his way of saying, we really shouldn't have done that. Because
I mean, it's a very unique episode. I mean, I think if you look back on it, it's not a bad episode. I think you need a better reintroduction to characters. It's a good introduction to Matthew Parker.
Yes.
But other than that, like, I feel like you could do so much more. I guess they also have the problem with, because you bring up that, like, the other hiatus started with, like, the wedding episode, where it was kind of like, what are all these characters doing?
Right, we knew some amount of time had passed in the real world, like, in the world of Odyssey. Whereas here, if you had told me this was, a week, 2 weeks later, I'd believe it.
Yeah. If you said it was the next day or two.
Right.
I would believe it. I think the biggest problem, though, when you get down to it, when maybe why they thought, well, we just need to start with it, is there was such a
Wait, you cut out there. You start that sentence again.
There was such a chopping block of, like, characters, like Bernard, the Rathbones, all the kids was expected.
Right.
But then, like, the Blackguards, like, both of them, Jack and Joanne Allen, who eventually came back, but in, like, such a minor role that, like, they weren't really probably thinking of bringing him back.
Right.
Tom. It's just they got rid of so many characters that I feel like it would have been weird to have, like, oh, what's everyone doing? And then, like, all these people just aren't there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just double checking to make sure there's not a reference to how much time has passed. There is not. But yeah, and I do think part of that is because the hiatus was so long, they lost a lot of actors. Because again, a thing in that Q&A podcast was they mentioned the setup for this hiatus was, this return was, if we were going to start the show today, knowing everything we know now, what would we do? And I do kind of wonder if that was not originally the plan, but it took so long that, like, we might as well just soft reboot.
Yeah, because that's very much what it is. And I actually, again, I think when you look at album 51 and even 52, I feel like there's a lot of good there.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a lot, like there's stuff like the mascot episode where it's like, oh, this is this character's issue he's trying to get through. But, the original run had, like, Isaac and Robin and the Barkleys and Lucy and Kurt and like they had a huge cast of characters but like there was to some extent like, oh, this character fits and their personality fits really well with this kind of issue.
Right. Absolutely. I had a point on that, but I don't remember anymore.
I'm sorry, Will.
Right. Oh, and back to what you said, the loss of so many adults to me didn't help, because Odyssey was always a show aimed at kids, but the adult characters also always helped round out the cast. So when they shifted to new kid characters, you at least had, oh, there's this very stable group of adult characters, so you don't feel like the show had shifted. But going to just Connie, Witt, Eugene, and Wooten, and half the time they're not even there.
Yeah. And I will say this, I mean, I do feel like they attempted to bring some of the adult characters back. Like, they brought Katrina back, but even then, she was in the Green Ring Conspiracy, but I feel like even that with Buck, now it's much more like Eugene and Buck focused.
Right. Well, yeah, because when did Katrina officially return? Because I was always kind of a foregone conclusion she would have to come back.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. And in fairness, I do like Penny, but it's hard because she's not like a super serious adult character.
Right.
Where like I still feel like there's a bit of an adult gap sometimes. But yes. I do feel like the soft reboot thing, I feel that. I almost wonder, looking back on it, because in a lot of respects they are soft rebooting, and like there is going to be some polarizing stuff. We probably talked about Album 51 before, and yeah. I think, and I was probably more negative about it, but kind of like revisiting it like a little while ago, it's not bad. You know, it's not my favorite album. I think there's a ton of problems, but as a soft reboot where they're like, let's just try to start some things over, it's not bad at all. Except it does, and I do get the soft reboot. However, it does become kind of apparent that it's weird then they have this continuation with the Inspiration Station.
Yeah, I agree. Which again, and maybe we're very wrong, but I do think that's part of a hint that it was not meant to be part of a soft reboot, but they still had to address the ending.
I wonder, when was the Green Ring Conspiracy? What album? Was it 53?
Yeah.
I think that was way too soon to have a full
12-part drama.
Because I think like the issue is what happened was I think there was a little more on Jones and Parker in Album 52 and like the Parkers in general, but that's not like the worst thing. I think the problem is when you look at it, basically you have 12 episodes that almost exclusively focus on the characters involved in that story.
Yeah.
And I feel that you're basically like, oh, so now like the Parkers are involved in this. So now they have like 12 episodes to like do the story where like a lot of the other kids are kind of sidelined.
Absolutely.
Like Stage Fright like has Barrett in it, although like that's still Emily.
Barrett's gone, so.
Huh?
Barrett's gone, so.
Yeah. Although in fairness, Album 52, when you look at it, okay, so that's the mascot one. It's a Square One club, but that's still kind of Matthew Emily focused. There's still like it's still very. Wait, Will.
What?
How many Jones and Parker detective episodes do you think are in Album 52?
4?
I believe that it's. Hold on. It might be. I think it's. I'm gonna say kind of 3 because there's the Molten Milk Ball Falcon, Stage Fright, which is the whole Phantom.
Right.
And then there's the Square One Club, which is like kind of essentially that. It's more. There's not real mystery, but it's like the drama behind their team.
Oh yeah.
And okay, ignore what I said about the Green Ring conspiracy then, because it was something in album 52. I don't think there is there might be like one or two episodes that does not mention one of the Parkers. It's literally like Eugene and Matthew. Then there's Wooten's Broken Pencil Show. Then Emily investigates. Matthew, Olivia, and the mascot. But I don't know why they I still don't get why they just lean so hard into the Parkers.
I honestly don't know.
Do you think it's because there were like 3 kids who were very different? Because when you look at the Barkleys, the only Barkley who really ever stood by himself that much was Jimmy.
True.
Donna had Karen.
Right.
But she never really became like a big solo.
Oh, yeah.
Kid. Same with like the Washingtons. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. I feel like I'm going into hate, but I want like the hiatus, turbulent time for me. I was waiting a lot, and then I feel like it came, and I think it was just kind of not underwhelmed or overwhelmed, just kind of whelmed.
Okay, turbulent time for you. Wait, that was a turbulent time for you?
I missed it, Will. I missed the adventures. And then they came back, and I'm like, these are some pretty solid adventures. Not like blowing my mind, but like, these are good. I think Inspiration Station it was weird. It was a weird way to come back. It's a good introduction to Matthew, but it's a weird way to come back.
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking how that's a turbulent time for you.
Okay, well, I was making a joke, okay?
Sorry, okay. So...
we don't have to go into my whole history of my life and my other turbulent times.
I think the turbulent time I'm thinking of was over by the time of the first hiatus.
Right, it was. It was.
Anyway,
actually, it might not have been.
Oh, okay, it was close to being over. Anyway, We're gonna wrap up the episode here. So join us again next week when we'll do.
Wait, do you have any final thoughts?
I think you summed up most of them, although it wasn't as turbulent of a time for me. And also, I was in high school by the time we came back, so I wasn't as into it.
Yeah. You were too cool.
No, it definitely wasn't it. I still listened to it, but I do kind of remember falling off for a few years, and the club came. I'm like, okay, I'm going to catch up on these lost episodes.
Yeah.
And now we're doing this podcast, the most listened to fan podcast of the show. I have no numbers to prove that. I'm just making that bold statement. So
I wonder how, I don't know. But yeah, I guess I will say album 51, I have a little more appreciation for thinking of it in terms of the hiatus. I just think afterwards, and like with the Truth Chronicles, I just want to know why they lead so. If I could ask them one question, I just want to ask them, why did you lean so heavily into the Parkers and ignored all these other characters you kind of created?
Actually, if you've ever read the book Disney War, I'd love a Disney War style book about the Odyssey hiatus of 2018 to 2010.
Yeah.
So here's the last question I'll say before we wrap up. Should they go on another hiatus to try to, jigger up the show again?
I think the problem is right now they have the show going pretty well. I still kind of wish they would release just 12 episode albums, because they could do that. The club episodes could easily be in the albums. I feel like the problem is now the albums are the plot, stuff that slowly is advancing plot of stuff.
Right. And actually, this is a topic we can save for another podcast, because I've seen some complaints that, hey, Odyssey should be more serialized, and some people say it should be less serialized, so this is a good discussion to have later. But I would like to point out the first hiatus ended in 1997. And, the show started in 89 and went to 96. We took a break. So 97 to 2008, we're kind of almost to 11 years since that first hiatus ended. Since that second hiatus ended. So we might be due for another break.
Which is funny. It's kind of crazy to think about that way. I mean, they might take a break. I think to me the problem is... Okay, so one, I think they're in a pretty decent spot with it now. Like,
Sure.
I think they have a good rhythm, especially with the club episodes where, like... I think... And they've introduced a lot more characters where it's like... I think my whole thing was that, like, I just wanted, like... Well, part of it was I feel like some of the episodes were not as good as, like... growing up, but that could be bias and just like also them trying to get their footing again, especially as a soft reboot.
Right.
But I also just wanted like more characters, and they have a lot of characters now.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like my worry is that with a reboot is if they want to take a hiatus and not have it like not replace the characters, that's fine. I think the problem is they've like confirmed that they are like gun-ho about sticking with these characters because they keep replacing the voice actors.
It is true. So there is that. We will see. All right, so we're gonna wrap up the episode here because we're closing in on an hour. And join us next time when we'll either talk about an album or another fun discussion topic. And actually, if you've probably already heard us do a quick 10-minute discussion about the 2020 episode list. So there's that. Actually, you're going to hear it right now. All right, so now we're here reading the 2020 episode list. Odyssey in 2020, what do we got? Good job. That's the name of the episode. I'm not patting anyone on the back. Okay. Connie makes it her mission to get Jillian the perfect job in town. The journey takes them to Triple J Antiques, to Wits End, to the hospital, and even Odyssey Channel 10. Meanwhile, Terry Calhoun struggles to overcome his failures in school and step out of his older brother's shadow.
Why do I feel like Jillian's just going to start working for Connie?
Probably.
Or like Penny or something. I don't know.
I know, or like she opens an Etsy store or something. I hope the ending is that not everyone needs a job, because that would be really weird for Odyssey to do.
Yeah. I mean, again, I do like more A-B plot episodes.
Oh, yeah. Alrighty. Playing favorites. Upon hearing that all parents have favorites, Olivia and Matthew Parker decide to find out their father's preferred child using a lie detector.
That sounds pretty funny.
Next door, Wyatt Perkins resorts to drastic measures to spend some quality time with his sister.
Wait, is Wyatt the father's in the army?
Yes.
Okay. That also could be pretty funny. He's a pretty good character, because normally like that character would seem annoying, but he's pretty good.
Yes, I will say, some of these episodes have already aired in the club, so I'm sorry we're talking about them when they're already out.
Oh, okay.
A wise surprise. With Penny's parents coming for a visit, the Bassetts plan an elaborate scheme to announce a special surprise for them. But when Frank and Eleanor get the wrong impression of what's coming, Wooten and Penny must figure out the right way to give them the real news. So, that sounds to me like they're going to have a baby, but at the same time, that might not be the announcement.
What if that's what they think the announcement's going to be?
Right, based on that description, that's what I think's happening. They think, oh, she's going to have a baby. But it's something else, like they're moving away from Odyssey.
Well, her parents don't live in Odyssey.
Right. So
what if it's something like, okay, here's my thing. I will be upset if it's like, they can't have children, so we're adopting somebody. Only because, like, they already did that with Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. I mean, I think I don't know if I said it on the podcast, but I was always like, I legitimately feel like because they haven't had a child yet, they're going to say that's like what's going on with that.
Right.
It would just seem kind of weird.
Yeah. Okay. So this next episode is just called Breaking News. There's no description for it.
Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be a radio episode.
Probably. There's another one called Further from the Truth that also has no description for it, but it's the last episode of the album. Oh, wait. In the aftermath of the events of a sacrificial escape, Emily Jones is once again pulled into the intrigue surrounding the mysterious voice. Wonder what that is.
So that's Maury, right? It's obviously Maury somehow.
Yeah, I almost have to assume.
I just want it to be he's Blackguard's son or something.
Yeah, well, because that's my other thing. The Maury thing has gone on way too long.
Yeah. Okay, because it started 4 years ago or something?
Right. And
3 years ago. And it hasn't even really... It really only ramped up with the escape room episode.
Right, because every episode that had him in it ended like they were going to do something with it, and they just kind of always sit on it.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Always Home. Ron Perkins, the dad who's in the military, returns home to surprise his family with a visit. Meanwhile, Whit finds himself missing his best friend, Tom Riley.
No, too sad.
I know. I guess I kind of appreciate we're going there, although I don't know why. I never thought Tom was Whit's best friend.
I could see. I actually would. If I had to be who's Whit's best friend in the original run, I probably would have said Tom Riley.
Actually, that'd be true. So the only thing is, I am not a big fan of they keep retrofitting Tom back into things. Like the whole thing about his will. It's like Tom passed away a few years ago. So wait a second. He passed away. He was such a big part of most of your lives, and you never brought it up?
I know. I don't get why they didn't have an episode regarding his funeral, because I feel like that would have been a good place for this episode. I love the idea of the episode, but to me it's it just doesn't make sense it wasn't earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's going to be something it's Whit's birthday and everyone forgot and Tom always remembered. Or it was Tom's birthday and they always had some kind of fishing...
Whit's birthday.
Or they had they always went on some fishing trip or something. And then Whit at the end's going to go with someone else or something.
I know, but this episode does sound very sad.
Yeah.
Alrighty, now here come the club episodes. Unsinkable Parts 1 and 2. It's all hands on deck when a series of clues appears to connect Whit's end to a survivor of the Titanic.
Okay.
Yeah,
that sounds like a club episode.
Yeah. Oh, okay, now we're jumping around a little bit. This is from album 69, apparently. Jumping off, jumping in. Wyatt starts taking silly risks like eating hot chips, leaping from sheds, and venturing into the lair of a ravenous beast. Is Jay putting him up to it, or is it tied to something that happened to his sister?
My guess is both.
Probably. Does his sister die or something?
I highly doubt an episode where his sister died would involve jumping on sheds.
True. Alrighty. Bridget Redefined. Bridget Perkins, Wyatt's sister, gets tired of people treating her differently just because her military dad is deployed.
That could be interesting.
Different plot, I will say. We're having a lot of Perkins family episodes right now.
It's true, but there's both Perkins and Parker, and there's Jules.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which, I mean, I still think there's, some issues with, the number of kids, but then there's also Buck, and I do feel like there's just more, adult things going on.
Very true. Alrighty, speaking of adult things, cars, trains, and motorcycles. Whit, Connie, Eugene, and Woot head to Chicago. What's their mission? Who's driving? And why is Whit... ... loopy? Now, I love the sound of this one, but it could also be a big dud.
Yeah, it's one we gotta keep our eyes out on.
Oh, yeah. Milestones. Wit uses the Room of Consequences to set up ethical challenges to help young people calibrate their moral compasses. Okay.
Moral. That's intriguing.
I mean, it just sounds like, oh, it's called Millstones, but it still sounds like that Rights, Wrongs, and Reasons episode.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? I mean, I like that episode, but never did much more with it.
Yeah. All right. Out of her element. When Renee needs help in chemistry, she's paired with an unlikely tutor, Eugene's accident-prone lab assistant, Horace. Meanwhile, Jay is eating his way across Odyssey, including Wit's End, by posing as a sophisticated online food critic.
That sounds like a very funny episode.
Yes. If nothing else, Jay will be the star of the show again.
Jay's Mischief.
Oh, yes.
Why don't they make a Jay in the Life?
I don't know. Okay, this one, they should make Jay in the Life. There was some reason because it contradicted something they set up later, but why don't they just write that out?
Right, just call the girl and be like, hey, can we change this?
I know, if I had won that and they decided not to make the episode because of that, I'd be a little ticked. But
yeah, where you're like, I wrote a whole episode, it won, and you're not gonna do it?
There is an episode coming up in, under the Future tab where Jay runs a 5K, so...
That sounds pretty funny.
Alrighty, this one's a little weird, but teach a man. While on a mission trip to Honduras, Wit gives Jay and Zoe an assignment: show young people how to shoot and edit movies on a tablet.
Intriguing. I mean, it's probably with a certain organization.
Oh, it does turn into how many mission trips does Wit go on?
That's Wit's job now.
True.
In fairness, he always is like, I have so much money.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Alrighty. The Forever Gift. Penny returns to Pittsburgh, where she grew up, only to discover that a lot has changed, while some things never do.
It could be good.
Oh, yeah.
Classic concept, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, audience. I'm a little tired.
Oh, yeah. The Martyr and the Rooster. When Cooper Calhoun's buddies find him carrying a Bible, he brushes it off, afraid to let on that he's a Christian. It leads to a conversation with Pastor Wilson Knox, who tells him about a similar event that occurred during an uprising at a San Juan prison camp. So I kind of love how they're just using Wilson to tell all these not weird, but just different stories now.
This is like, well, okay, it's also the level of extremity. I feel like it's like, oh, he want to share the faith, which, like, yeah, you should talk to him about it and help him. But then it's like, let me tell you the story about this San Juan prison camp. It's like, what? It's like my aunt was at a gas station, and the man in front of him was kind of like, you know, he looked a little bit poor and didn't have that much money, and he was using it to buy lottery tickets. And, you know, he was being kind of rude. So he leaves with his lottery tickets. And my aunt goes up to the counter, and the cashier is like, "Thank you so much for waiting." And my aunt's like, no problem. And then, you know, the guy's like, you know, I don't want to be rude, but every time that guy comes in, it's always just a hassle. And then, you know, it's a fair thing to say. And then my aunt in reply was like, well, in Israel, everyone has to join the army for a year.
What?
And then she goes to say, and I think everyone should do public service for a year.
Okay.
It's like, pastor, you can make this point without going to the extreme.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually like the character. I just think it's funny, where it's like, how it just goes like, let me tell you the story of the San Juan prison camp.
Oh, yeah. All right, last one, then you can go to bed. Young Wit and the Revolutionary Secret. Young Johnny Whitaker learns that a local tradition isn't what everybody thinks it is. Should he reveal the truth or protect the legend? Can he and Emmy's friendship withstand the Revolutionary Secret? Who's Emmy?
Is that his sister?
Probably.
To me, that does not sound super engaging. Also, has he ever been called Johnny Whitaker in the world?
I don't think so.
If we're talking about
It's
problems with
Jack Allen's sister.
Oh. Wait, what?
Yeah, Emily Allen has been mentioned in 4 episodes and appeared in 2.
Oh, was she the one in that one episode? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, never mind. I remember that now. I just forgot she was Jack Allen's sister.
Yeah, but Jack Allen does not appear to be in the episode. Wilson Knox is, but...
Hey, Wilson, he's the new fave.
Now,
in fairness, he's a good new adult character in the sense where he feels really like an adult.
Right, now it could be like this is... Whit is just telling Wilson the story, because, remember, they didn't hang out as kids, so... But, I mean, Wilson is just there to retcon things now, so...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Excuse me.
Alrighty.
Well, it's 1:50 a.m.
Alright, well that wraps up this episode. Join us next week when we discuss something or other, and you're going to hear the other hiatus one pretty soon. So I'm Will.
I'm John.